Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, and this is a Zollin's Opinion. I'm doing a reaction video on the brand new art that we got from the War of the Rohirrim that came out. I'm really excited. I've been really stoked about this. This art has doubled my excitement. It looks awesome. A lot of you might not know because I do a lot of Lord of the Rings content and I like very medieval things and swords and all this stuff, but I do like a good anime, and I mean a good high quality anime. There's some special stuff in anime that you can get with emotions that you can't really get in live action. And I want to be very careful with how I say that, because what I'm talking about is sometimes the way anime can drag out an emotional moment where in live they can't. But as we see in wonderful, like, Lord of the Rings trilogy, there are some amazing actors that have beautiful emotional moments. You know, Theoden with Bernard Hill and every other actor in that show. So I'm not saying it's better than live action. I'm just saying there's some special things that you can get out of anime. And I'm really excited to review this and kind of talk about it. So I brought in an expert with me today. Well, he's pretty much like it. We both do a lot of anime. I brought in Knightkhas to join us today. So Knight, welcome. And we're going to look at the art together today.
Howdy, everyone.
Yes, welcome.
I'm not sure I would describe myself as doing anime, but we'll go with that.
Yes. We watch a lot of anime and cover stuff, and it's and again we like the nice anime. I don't know things like Rurouni Kenshin, if you guys have heard of that in a long time. It's from the 90s, but let's bring up the art here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here on the screen. So I'm going to get a bigger version of it here in a second, but let's just go ahead and blow it up here a little bit. So here's some of the first art. I'm going to actually bring it down to the corner here so we can kind of look at it right there. And then for you, Knight, let me just show you so you can see it as well at the same time. And we're a reaction video here. All right. So first impressions, I'm going to give mine first, and then we're going to let Knight give his thoughts on the art. So the first thing I notice when I look at it is that I really like the fact that it has that more older, like late 90s, early 2000s art style. A lot of times, a lot of newer animes, if any of you watch anime a lot, have been going a lot more into like computer, instead of drawn anime, it's going into a little bit more like computer generated stuff, which again, I like both. I'm not trying to rag on either, but I do like for Lord of the Rings Online, I think it gives it the emotion it needs. I said Lord of the Rings Online. The Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim movie, Lord of the Rings movie, I think it needs this more solemn look where it's more like epic and just really cool. So what is your first impressions, Knight, of this art?
Well, I was looking at this and going, well, that's obviously King Theoden.
Well, I should have probably...
the prince who died. The shield maiden of Rohan has red hair, which...
Yes. So here's the thing about this. This is actually in the past. All right. So that's a super good guess. I love that you said that, Knight, because that's like perfect. Because I'm sure a lot of people out there are going to see this and immediately think, oh, it's an animated version of the Lord of the Rings, right? The Two Towers. But this is actually about Helm Hammerhand, who's, I think it's around 160 years before Theoden and them. And this is the story. Yes, okay. This is the story of... So the middle guy is Helm Hammerhand, who actually does have a very interesting... I mean, they're relatives of Theoden. So it would make sense they would look similar, right? They're his past.
Well, it makes sense. His beard is bigger.
Yeah, correct. So Helm Hammerhand, and in the original story, for people who don't know, and again, I should have said that ahead of time a little bit. By the way, I've got my Theoden armor on here. Haha. So he has a daughter. So again, Theoden, right, if we're talking about the Lord of the Rings, he has two nephews, right? He has Éowyn and Éomer, who end up, Éomer becomes king and Éowyn marries Faramir. But this is in the past.
So that was my guess, was the prince who died in battle.
That's an extremely logical guess.
But alas, they all had the wrong color. She had the wrong color hair.
The wrong color hair, exactly. Yeah, but that was a really good guess, Knight. That's why I totally gave this raw. I didn't even I gave Knight like 5 minutes warning. I'm like, hey, let's make a video. He's like, all right. So basically, his daughter is the one that one of the Dunlanding chieftains asks to marry, and he kind of disrespects her, and then basically kind of a war starts over that kind of. And I believe the other guy on the left is his son. And I'm trying to remember. I believe, leave a comment, guys, if you remember this off the top of your heads. But in the lore, I don't know if he has 2 sons, and I don't remember that off the top of my head right now, or if it's just another person there on the side. But it's really cool. So this is about the story of Helm Hammerhand. So let's go ahead and look at the next image here.
That could be crazy, but that could be his grandson based off of age differences.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true. But I guess again, in the movie, we're going to see they will probably follow directly in the stuff with all this. Again, we're doing this off the cuff, guys. I did not do any of my research or refreshing my mind on any of it. We're just reacting to the art. So let's go ahead and look at the next one here. So let me bring it up. It's this one right. Oh, no, not this one. That's not the one I was going to show you. Right here. Let's look at this one next, and I will bring it up for everybody else here. That is not the one I want to look at yet. This is the one I want to talk about next. And in fact, I'm going to flip my camera for everyone so you guys can see a bigger version of the picture while we talk. All right, so this is another really good shot of, I believe, again, his daughter. This almost looks like it's in front of, like, Helm's Deep. I don't know if anyone gets that vibe. What do you think?
Okay, so can you explain to me what a Dunlander is first?
Yes, this is great because a lot of people are going to be confused on this. So again, if you remember in the Two Towers, they vaguely put this in Peter Jackson's adaptations. Like it is.
Were they the people that came down from the mountains and started raiding?
Yes, those were them.
Okay.
And originally they were, they had a little bit more of a kingdom. The Lord of the Rings Online goes a lot more into this, Phil.
I was under the impression that they were kind of pushed out in hard resentment, which is why they teamed
Correct.
up with, if I remember correctly, Sauron to fight against them.
Yeah, it's really a lot more complicated than what they push in.
Along the lines of that Cliff Notes version.
Yes.
I want to assume that she's currently on Rohan's side.
Yes.
Pointing
All
her
of these
weapon at one of the Dunlanders while surrounded by Dunlanders in masks.
Correct. I would assume so, unless those are supposed to be orcs, but they look human to me with their hands. So yeah. I bet you are correct. And remember, in this lore, in this story, the Dunlandings actually siege them, and they basically surround them in Helm's Deep, which is why Helm Hammerhand, which is his name, the king, why that remember when Gimli in the Two Towers says, you will sound the horn, the helm of the horn of Helm Hammerhand one last time will sound in the deep. That horn is based on him, because in the original lore, we'll see how they do it for this movie. And by the way, apparently this is a movie animated. It's not a TV anime series. So interesting side note for me and Knight and everyone watching. So
it's like feature length.
Yes, it'll be in theaters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting to do an anime as a movie. I feel like they're kind of going more toward like Studio Ghibli style, where it's like a full-length movie.
So this art style, to comment on your previous comment, it doesn't remind me per se of the 2000s, but it's certainly reminiscent. I found as they've advanced,
it's a little newer
art style. They've made it newer, and I want to say clearer, maybe more high definition of some sort. They also have like softened and slightly more anime-ized the features a little bit. I think it's reminiscent to me of the Shield Hero.
That style.
It's mostly detailed, but then there's like anime features applied to it.
Yeah, like it's an art style, but you still have some similar things like the anime, the way they do the nose and the way they do the eyes, and
exactly.
Yeah, and then like the sword looks really nice too. But again, I was just really excited about these. So you guys, we have 2 questions for you guys in the comments. One question is, what do you guys think about this art? Are you excited? All that kind of stuff. And then a fun little surprise question for Knight. How many of you guys want Knight to be in more Return to Moria videos? It feels like, wait a second. But anyway, I know we're gonna get like 10 people are like, yes. So anyway, everyone likes you, Knight. We enjoy you being on. Thank you for coming on. And then we'll look at the next art here. So I'm gonna switch over to this last one. This last one I'm not quite 100% sure on myself. You can see it, Knight. I'm assuming I feel like the way he looks, he's probably a Dunlanding.
I got confused looked at this guy because the first thing that my brain went was, "Hey, I know him. That's the guy from Castlevania.
He does have that
He's
look.
the vampire hunter."
Yeah, he does have that look. Yeah, they gave him a similar look.
But avoiding that comment a little more, he does look somewhat reminiscent of Aragorn. So
Yeah,
I suppose they could go that route, but
I don't
he
think
also has fur and fur over his shoulders and fur lining his gauntlets, which
curious.
Which makes me believe maybe he's from slightly higher up than Rohan. So maybe he's some sort of either antagonist or
I think you're right. I think he's Gabati. That's my guess.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe he's a good guy from a different area or something like that. He could just be a scout.
I'm curious
he's
if
definitely got the stars for it.
He's either a random guy that they took a cool picture of that's attacking Helm's Deep, because that looks like Helm's Deep in the background, the way they've done the animation. And I'm assuming from his furs, they weren't as back then. They're more of an actual kingdom. They're less like in the Two Towers at that point. They're like living in the hills.
Maybe we should read into the furs, considering the entire area is snowing.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Good point. But I bet you I would wager he's the guy who wanted to marry the princess we just saw in the other picture. And he's the one that basically really disrespects the princess and Helm Hammerhand. And that's when the war starts.
Okay. I had that backwards when you said that.
Possibly that's what it is. Again, I'm kind of thinking of just the basic lore I know. There's not like there's like a good chunk of lore on it. And if you guys really want a good video on the lore of this whole thing and what it goes over, I do recommend watching my friend Matt Nerd of the Rings' video on it. In fact, I could just link his video in the description after you finish this one. But he goes through a lot of good information on the lore and background of all these characters. But I really, just from an art perspective, I love how the backdrop looks, and like he's animated, but like the backdrop almost looks like a painting or a drawing. Do you notice that, Knight? The way how him compared to the background.
So a lot of Japanese animes start off with a painting and figure out how to move the painting in the background to make it look like everything is moving. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually a detailed painting, whether in 3D from multiple angles or not, where they animate the snowflakes in the background and then use that to save on the amount of frames that they have to fully animate.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you make a really good point, Knight, with that. And I really find I just think it's like, it looks really good though. Like I am pleasantly surprised.
I'm excited about that because the way they're doing it's going to lead to them having more detail, which will be a lot of fun to watch in this specific anime.
Yes, and I don't remember the exact information I heard, but I did remember they brought some very famous animators that do anime from Japan to work on this. And they were actually some very big named people. I do not remember off the top of my head right now. I would make a more detailed guide video, not maybe guide, review on that in the future.
They've had some really good animators in One Piece recently that have been on fire, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some from there.
And I know they
have similar faces, so I wouldn't be surprised.
And I'm trying to remember, but I believe the actress who played Eowyn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I believe that she is going to be doing a voiceover of something, whether she's a character or a like a narrator, I believe, which will be kind of cool to have her back doing the voices. And it's kind of neat that she played Eowyn and now she's going back to be a voice for a series that's supposed to be like 160. I'm trying to remember, it's 160, 180 years before. I don't remember, somewhere in there. And this series, I believe, not only did the Dunlandings fight them, also the Haradrim fight them. So we're going to see Mumakil attack Rohan. So that's something that's in the original story, and I believe that'll be in this series. So that'll be kind of cool to see. So yes, they do pass Gondor to go over to to attack this. So anyway, so I'm going to go over here to the final. Basically, those are all the pictures we went through, but I want to look at. Maybe
that'll bring up some references to when King Theoden gets really angry and he goes, "Where was Gondor when the West Hills fall?" And that sort of stuff.
You are. Wow, look at Knight. He's got it, man. Yes, that actually, I believe that is where that reference comes from. At least one of these battles in this time. And I think we'll probably see that. And since New Line Cinema is the one producing this series, they have the rights to all of Peter Jackson's movies, which means they could tie as many references as they wanted to the original lore.
Wonderful news, because I've gotten really sick of people randomly acquiring parts of IPs and then screwing up part of the IP.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear it's connected to the actual people making the
Yes. So, and I don't know,
it'll be properly overseen.
Correct. That's what I'm really hoping for. I have a lot more hope in this. It's supposed to come out, I believe at this time is December 13th, I think is the release date in theaters for 2024.
They're probably using the One Piece formula where they have the animators overseen by the actual people of the show.
Yeah.
Shiro Oda oversaw the whole live action, which is why it was better than a lot of previous live actions.
And One Piece is like one of the only like TV shows besides Amazon's Rings of Power that I've reviewed on the channel that wasn't Lord of the Rings because it was so good. So I really am very excited about this series, and thank you so much, Knight, for coming on to make a video with me, talk about it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate a couple of things you said, Knight, just guessing what they were without you even knowing that it was the history, like the war, the 106 years before, because that's what a lot of people are going to think. So a lot of people are going to think, oh, is this a animated version of the Two Towers, right? Because another thing to tie into that real quick before I forget is that I think this is neat that it has this cleaner original drawing look of anime, because I think it'll tie people who saw the original animated Lord of the Rings and Hobbit series. If you remember those, right? Before Peter Jackson's were around.
That's cool.
Yeah, and those used to be around a lot, and those are very more like have a look like this, but of course this is leans animated compared to those who were more cartoony and had their own style. But I think that'll kind of tie it in for a lot of people who saw those originals. What is that? They were the 80s, right? So that's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the American
I was not alive yet.
Have either retired or just gone out of business because there aren't very many more American animation styles, and so I find that since Japan's styles of animation are so much more popular that it's often rare that they have American style animation. Yeah.
And I really like too personally how the characters look exactly like they're described in the book by, because there's quite a bit described about the War of the Rohirrim in the I believe they're in the appendices, which is why they can even make this show.
I've found myself commenting about that on lots of shows several times, that it's not that hard to get 4 or 5 nerds into a round table, pick apart the movie beforehand so they can fix all the plot holes in the script level.
Yeah.
So many people don't do it. It's weird.
It is weird. Yeah. And if you notice, Knight, if you look at his hands, how big they are, his name is Helm Hammerhand. And later in the story, he actually goes out when they're basically they're under siege at Helm's Deep, and they're in siege for months. And I believe that is the reference to what Theoden says. I might be the wrong battle I'm thinking
spoilers.
About. Yes, so that is a little bit of spoilers. Yes, I'm sorry. So we won't say anything else than that. But he gets the reason he's called Helm Hammerhand. It might have something because he's very good at punching, but that's kind of a given. But I won't say any more because you're right. We shouldn't give too many spoilers.
Now hear me out. There was a hammer in his hand.
True. Could be that. Me over here with all the knowledge of the actual story in my head going, I shouldn't say anymore. Anyway, I really appreciate it. That was really fun. Thank you everybody for hanging out for the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, leave those comments. I'd love to know what you guys think of the art. Do you like the type of anime art style? Do you what do you think? Are you really excited? Are there things you're worried about? I am in the boat personally of the feeling of it is going to be pretty good. I tend to lean that way, where I really think this particular group of people that are doing it and the rights they have, I think it's gonna be very fun. Again, I'm a big anime fan. I like really high class quality anime personally. The good stuff. Knight knows what I'm saying. Knight too. We like to watch the really good animes, and like again, he really likes the One Piece series, which they're doing a new one, right, Knight? They're like redoing a reboot of that too, besides the live action.
I don't know.
They're continuing the original.
Updating it with HD for years. But I did recently hear something about Ichiro Oda wanting to do one with an alternate storyline just for fun.
Okay.
But I don't think it's going to happen in the next few years, because he was saying something about on Twitter or something when the Egghead arc that they're currently on came out. He was like, I have just begun to write my storyline. It should be wrapped up in the next 2 years.
All right, so
this
you got
the peak time.
So you guys got a lot of stuff. Cool, a lot of stuff to come. Fantastic. Well, it'll be a blast. I really again, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to my Patreons for their support. Oh, my video picture is covering the supporters there. All right, there we go. You guys all have a great and wonderful day in Middle-earth. My thoughts on this is Zollin's opinion. I'm really stoked. I think it's gonna be awesome. And again, one of my favorite animes of all times, which Knight already knows, is Rurouni Kenshin. And it's the classic one from I think it's the late 90s or early 2000s. I forget when it, not Samurai X, that's a different version of it, but just the regular Rurouni Kenshin one. I really liked that growing up. Even though technically it was made a little before my time, but it had that more old-fashioned anime look like this. So I'm very excited. I'm stoked. What do you think, Dad? Are you stoked too?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's really good and they lead to more.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the Gollum movie that comes out that's separate to this live action, Peter Jackson, will be really good, so they'll make some more. And I'm hoping that, the animated series like this, if it really does really well, and it's super enjoyable and follows Tolkien's lore, that it'll be awesome. And I think it will. That's my gut feeling. So anyway, thank you, Knight, for being here. Thank you for watching, guys. Subscribe buttons there. Next episode over there. Over there is Lotion Tail or something. Check them all out. And again, I'll link another thing to my friend Nerd of the Rings' whole history of this part of the appendices of the Lord of the Rings Return of the King, of the history of Rohan. He does a really good job with that. So link that for you. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings.